This is Target Score Weekly with Joey Slattery and Taylor Allen. Welcome into another edition of Target Score Weekly. I'm Joey Slattery. That is Taylor Allen. And we've got ourselves this is a unique episode. We've got Winnipeg's, the newest, is it safe to call them the Winnipeg's newest Winnipeg famous dudes?
I think so.
I think it's pretty safe to say that. We've got the super fans, the Tracksuit Brothers, on this edition of Target Score Weekly. If you don't know the Tracksuit Brothers, they're the most recognizable sideline fans that have season tickets down there, and they wear the flashy tracksuits, velour tracksuits with the nice shoes and the fanny packs and the chains and the headbands. And they also got their own, I guess we'll call it, tracksuit deal with local retailers Weekay recently. So now their fandom has become basically their life. And we're going to talk to them all about it. They're pretty cool dudes. They were a lot of fun, and hearing the origin story, I think, is going to be very interesting for everybody. And also the pressure that comes with it. Believe it or not, there's pressure to being a tracksuit brother, and we're going to hear all about it. But Taylor, how have you been? It's been a week now. I think you're now kind of okay with the Pacers being out of the playoffs. You're now fully into CEBL. How we doing there?
You know, I've reached the acceptance stage of my grief. So about the Pacers. So, life moves on, bigger and better things are coming ahead for those guys. So, but I would be doing a little better, I'll be honest, if the Dallas Mavericks would have won game one. I've never cheered for Kyrie Irving in my entire life, but here I am, being a Kyrie, I'm jumping on the Kyrie bandwagon. I hate to say it. And he let me down. I've never rooted for him. And of course, in all the other past, instances, he beats my team, makes me look silly. And the one time I want Kyrie to do well, they lose by over 20 points. So
I don't know if the bandwagon's too full, but he was slowed down in that first game. That's for sure.
Yeah. So my basketball life has not been too good to me lately, but whatever, life goes on. But work-wise, Bombers, their season started last night, and
bit of a stinker there.
Yeah, that's kind of putting it nicely, I'd say. Yeah, I've been on the Bombers beat really since kind of their dynasty, or actually not dynasty, but
their
since
pseudo dynasty, we'll call it.
Yes, that's a better way of putting it. Started in 2019, and yeah, that might have been the worst regular season game I've seen Zach Claris play since he showed up here a couple of years ago. So yeah, brutal start for them. They're a little older, and some guys missed training camp and whatever. So who knows? And again, your reign can't last forever. No one has made 5 straight Grey Cups since Edmonton did it back in the 80s and late 70s. So the clock might be ticking, but it's only week one. So Bomber fans, don't hit the panic button yet. But so yeah,
week
that's
one,
been my
always
life.
Over. It's always overreaction week. Also, I apologize because I'm holding my microphone. I don't know if I lost it. I can't find my mic stand, so I hope the audio is pretty level. But I only caught the tail end, and then I tuned into Bonfire with Darren Bombing to get the details. So yeah, it was seemed like more of a support session than a post game show, because yesterday, that same day, the Sea Bears played, and then I had to rush home to catch the rest of the Celtics game, which I was kind of watching both at the same time. And the Celtics madly disrespected. I was so disappointed with the amount of people that want Boston to lose so bad that they create narratives that Dallas is better and that they were going to be this kryptonite and that the Celtics couldn't handle Luka or Kyrie, and boomsies, 18-point win to open up the whole thing. And Luka did have 30 points, but that was the only Maverick that showed up. And I'm feeling pretty validated, because I thought the disrespect for a number one ranked team across the whole league that had an incredible 50-win season, clinched everything long before anybody even got to the playoffs, let alone clinching divisions and conferences. And and I think they were able to come in with an underdog mentality, and I think it's paying off. So hopefully that keeps up the whole time. But we are a CEBL podcast, so we have something to say on that.
Hold on. I was going to say, Boston's obviously much better team. They've been the best team since basically the beginning of the season, where Dallas,
and no one got stronger.
Well, whatever. And in Dallas,
here's what I'll say. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. And Dallas, no one was expecting them to be in the finals, right? They have these two superstars, two megastars, Luca and Kyrie, but no one was expecting them to come out of the West. I don't recall anyone picking them to come out of the West. So
But
I
that's
think
what I
now people
mean.
are trying to make a narrative that, they're trying to make it seem possible that Dallas could be the ones to knock off Boston. When in all likelihood, we know they're probably not. But with that said, kind of the thing that everyone's throwing out there right now as well, if the game's down to the last 3 or 2 minutes and it's a close game, no way Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum will be able to outduel Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic because those guys are just so clutch and whatever. Which I think there is some,
There's some
truth to that
fairness
for
to
sure.
that
But
for
when
sure.
you beat them by 20 points, 20 plus points, hey, that doesn't really matter. So,
That's
but yeah,
also
I think
assuming exactly, right? Assuming that they can keep it that tight. But here's the other thing, and I think it actually validates the Pacers more than anything because the Pacers played the Celtics really well. I know they didn't have Porzingis, and Porzingis played great in game one, but the Pacers made it hard on the Celtics, and I honestly think that was the blessing for Boston because they had to win tight games. It was a tight sweep. It wasn't like a blowout sweep. Like a few of those games could have went either way, and they closed out those games. And as I mentioned on this podcast and elsewhere before, that was always the number one issue with them was closing games and getting away from their style of play. And it just seems like since their last lost in round two, may I add, they've pulled it all together. Right now, it seems like they're playing a full game. They get it. They're peaking at the right time. I'm feeling very confident. I can't wait for this to end. I think it's going to be five. I can't see Dallas not winning a game, but I would like to see them win in five. I actually have a buddy, Taylor, that my buddy in San Francisco. We had a podcast once upon a time that was very Celtics based or focused, and he spent like $6,000 American for a ticket to go to Game Five.
of this year's finals.
I don't know if I could. Like, I'm a
Whoa.
huge Celtics fan.
Ho, ho, ho.
I don't know unless I had that money in the bank and to spend. But yeah, so
Different if
he's
it's
gonna
like a
be my
one game championship, you know what I mean? Like the national title that this game's for sure gonna decide it. Where game five, that might not be the game to decide the series. You
yeah.
might not be seeing the confetti falling from the rafters. So yeah,
Well,
that's kind of ballsy, but I respect it.
I'm gonna live vicariously through him. Like I'm more jealous of anything. I'm like, I wish I had that money to throw around and head out to Boston. And if they win a championship, man, I guess it's worth it for sure. Like that's you're not gonna be thinking of the money you spent if you're there for the celebration. But yeah, it'll be good. So I'm kind of hoping it's five just so he can go out there and it'd be nice to see someone at a game like and he's very close, like he's not sitting too far from courtside, so it'll be a good view. But anyway,
Well, I got
moving
one
on
more
to
note on that. I got one more note.
okay.
One thing I got to get off my chest because it's been killing me ever since I've really met you, if I'm being honest. And now that you're literally wearing a Timmins hat, for those that don't know, Joey is not born and raised in Winnipeg. He's from Timmins,
You
Ontario.
trying to out me here?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, outing all your dark secrets right now. And you're wearing
Oh
a
no.
Laurentian shirt, Laurentian University or college. Is that college or university?
It's a university. I'm
University. Okay.
smarter than I look. I'm smarter than I
Oh,
look.
okay. Well,
Not a lot
good to
smarter,
know.
but a little bit.
Well, anyways, you're Mr. Ontario.
Yeah.
You're right, and you're literally wearing it right now. I don't know if you know this. There's actually an NBA team in your home province. They're called the Toronto Raptors. And yet,
Mm.
here you are, week after week, bleeding Celtic green, being Mr. Boston, where you're literally turning your back on your home province. You grew up with the Raptors. You grew up with Vince Carter, Chris Bosh, and yeah, more losing seasons than winning seasons, but yet you didn't cheer for the team in your own province.
Am I
That's
hearing this
it's
correctly? Am I hearing a born and bred
it's
Winnipegger
it's sick.
trying to sell someone
It's
on
twisted.
cheering for a Toronto
I have
team?
no respect for it. I have no respect for it. It upsets me. It really does. So I had to
Wow,
get
I
it off my
just
chest, and there
well
you go.
to
There it is.
put it I guess to try to summarize as quickly as possible. The in my early formative days, like there was a lot. I think it was actually CTV Sportsnet back then, and they would have like games that would be on courtside as well. If you remember the score, they'd always have those courtside cut-ins from local broadcasts. And the local team for Boston was like, and I'm not like a homer guy. Like I usually don't like homer calls, but this one was just so genuine. And it was Tommy Heinzen was the color commentary, and Mike Gorman who just retired. And I remember just being like Antoine Walker would just like this actually didn't happen, but like punch somebody in the face and be like, How was that a foul? These days, you can't really tell what a foul. And they would just like be so defensive to Boston. And then I went to a school. My high school was O'Gorman. We were green and white. And then the other tie, just kind of ironic that their color commentary's last name is Gorman. And yeah, and then like Paul Pierce came in, and that was like my guy. That was my generation. And I loved the Celtics, and I don't know why. Like obviously I watched a lot of Raptors because they're on TV, but no, it's you can't explain why you bleed green. You just bleed green. And there's probably just the fact that I am so intertwined with success that I went to the team that had the most success. Just it's all about image
You
and
went to the
reflection.
Celtics, not the Lakers, so
Hey man, up until when they went 2020, the most banners were in Boston, and that is going to happen again in just a couple weeks' time when they are the all-time leaders in championships with 18 of those beautiful banners hanging from the rafters. Now we can finally move to CEBL.
yeah, no more
the
interruptions from me.
That's
Continue
okay.
on.
That was good banter. It was good banter. It got my energy up. We're good. I'm heated. I'm ready. Now the Sea Bears though. So last time we had the episode, it was the home opener. We had Alex Campbell on, Mr. 1000. Since then, they won their next game at home against the Blackjacks. They won their road opener, a weirdly timed day game. It was a school day game in Brampton against the Honey Badgers.
Yeah, not a fan of that. I
The
couldn't
day
watch the
game?
game. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was at that game in person last year. Like my wife's from Brampton. I just happened to be in town, and that fan base, like you don't normally get a lot of fans in Brampton, but when you've got like thousands of screaming kids, it's just different. Like I think it was actually a gift to the Sea Bears because it wasn't too different from playing at a packed Canada Life Center, but it is definitely a challenge when you have like that shrill coming out of kids when they're just happy to be out of
What I
school.
used to cover the Moose here and there, and when I have to cover those day games, and all the schools would bring their kids, and it's just screeching nonstop for 2.5, 3
For
hours.
everything.
Brutal, absolutely. I mean, it's a great initiative, getting the kids at the game. That's all fine and dandy, great PR and all that good stuff. But for me, a grown man, having to sit there listen to it was an absolute nightmare. So I'd imagine that experience in Brampton would kind of be similar vibes. So it kind of sent a shiver down my spine a little bit. But
Yeah,
um,
well, either way, they came out on top. It was a little closer than it probably needed to be in that game, but hey, as long as you're winning them. But the last game, that was in where were they? Niagara against the River Lions, and so that game was just interesting all around because that was the first time that we saw a game mostly played without Teddy Allen. He's not injured, but he got two technical fouls. Not too sure what happened on the second one. The reporter kind of explained what happened in the first one that earned him the first tech, but they come out of the timeout and it's just like Teddy's like frustrated and he's being walked off the court, basically ushered out. And that was like early in the second, or at least midway through the second quarter. And to that point, it was a shootout between Niagara and Winnipeg. I thought to me that was going to be the game, like a truer measuring stick. At that time, Niagara's 1-2. But they're one of the favorites in the league. They're a really good team. They made some great additions. Nathan Kayo coming over from Montreal, probably being their biggest addition from an already strong team. Teddy had a couple of old teammates from Leicester on that team, and TJ Law and Kimball McKenzie, but there's no love lost there. He was gone relatively early. And what we did see was a team that was resilient because they did have to battle back. Niagara went on a run. That second quarter was basically a disaster for the Sea Bears. And then they come back in the third. In the fourth quarter, I think they got it to within 1 point on it. It was an unbelievable play. And it was a Dave Mooncat, who's now made his debut. He's now played in 2 games for the Sea Bears on the road, coming right from Germany, a game in Germany on Sunday. And then he was at that game, was it Wednesday? Or was it Tuesday? I
great.
can't. No, it was Wednesday. It was Wednesday in Brampton, and he's
I don't think
played
people
well.
realize how hard that would be to finish a season overseas, and the time difference and all that stuff too. You're traveling over to Canada. I don't know what his journey was, but I'm sure it took a while.
Well, you
And
just show up to Toronto and join the team, right? Like
yeah,
that's the
doesn't even have a
crazy
chance
part.
to learn everyone's name on the team. And this is pro basketball. This isn't, a rec team. Like that's a tough situation to be in. So kudos for him because he did, decently well considering the hand that he was dealt.
Well, totally. And then on this play particularly, he's running like battling back. There's a 3-point shot being taken, which, could have been a dagger at that point, makes the block. But what most impressed me about it, Taylor, was Alex Campbell Do you remember that Derek Jeter play where he cuts from shortstop down the first base line to cut off the throw to get it on target to Posada in the playoffs and they get the tag?
Yes. Yeah.
It was the equivalent of that in basketball. He just ran like so when he blocked it, it was going behind the backboard, floating out of bounds. No reason for anybody to get that ball. Alex Campbell saves it and also gets it to Jared Ogunbemi Jackson. They go back the other way, cash a three to get it within one. That was the clutch play that would have been the turning point for me, but they just couldn't get it done. Niagara was strong defensively. They struggled with them. Niagara was so strong on the transition play. They've got plenty of second chance points. They're balanced scoring up and down the lineup. And Winnipeg, without Teddy, you take away those and 25 to 40 points as we've seen this year. It's hard to battle back. But Jared Ogunbemi Jackson was the one who really stepped up for me, who I thought played really well in that game. I'm just pulling up the box score here. He had, was it 24 points?
I think it's 24. Yeah.
Yeah, 24, 6 assists, 3 boards, 33 minutes of playing time. Like, absolutely unreal. David Mooncat is Mooncat. I got to clarify that. We'll say Mooncat for now. David Mooncat had 16 points, 8 boards in his second game. And
Crazy.
that was a follow up because in his first game, and his first game was in his hometown of Brampton. And in that first game, he had 10 points and 6 boards and an assist. So, like, to come in, as you say, from Germany, I don't even know what the time difference is there, to just adapt. And we know that, the playbook and the scheming that goes on with the Mike Taylor offense, there's a lot to learn as it is. So very impressed with how they've been able to integrate him, and they need him because Darius Days is gone. It's not injury related, but sounds like he might be getting some workouts in with some other NBA teams or something like that. So, but what a time to get him. As soon as the first game, Days isn't in the lineup, Wencat goes in there and was a very, very effective. And he has some experience in the league that probably helps. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to, fool anybody in thinking like a poop game was a fudgicle, but maybe it was a poopsicle. It was just there. It wasn't a great game, but the one thing that did stick out to me was the resilience in terms of battling back and giving themselves a chance to win in target time, and just couldn't get to that target before Niagara did, but they did put up a fight, got some timely stops. Mason Bercier is another guy that's been impressing me. Doesn't always pop off the stat sheet, but man, is that guy so sound defensively and just, getting some key takeaways and setting up his
Perfect guy to
teammates.
come off the bench. Like that's
Perfect.
he's got
Yeah,
it's not because he kind of looks like TJ McConnell, like if we're being
a
honest,
little
but
bit.
he kind of plays like him too, like just the energy he brings and takes care of the basketball, shoots the ball well. So yeah, he was an underrated pickup for sure. And he kind of gets lost in the shuffle at times because they just have so many other, big guys that they signed this offseason. But this isn't the first time we've seen Teddy get kicked out of the game. This happened last year as well. So
Do you remember? We were
we
trying to
all have our
remember
moments,
that
but
yesterday. Was it like, when did he get kicked out? Like, in terms of, was it early in the game, late in the game? Because
I
at
don't
least this
remember
year,
either.
this is the first time we've seen
It was
him
against
like,
Vancouver, I know, because
okay.
Mason was telling us,
Yeah, no,
telling the story about it when
Calgary,
he was on.
Calgary. And it was in
Calgary?
Calgary, I think. Yeah, because Mason played on Calgary last year.
Yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
I just pretend I know what I'm talking about half the time. But
It's
when
hard
Teddy
because
got
they all
kicked,
bounce around teams.
yeah. But when Teddy got kicked out yesterday, I was kind of intrigued, like, okay, who's gonna be the guy who's gonna be the main focal point on offense? Like, are we gonna get that Byron Mullins game now? Because he
But
hasn't been the first or second option, and it wasn't him. It was a friend of the program, JOJ. Like he really stepped up and showed Teddy's the face of this team, but like if he's struggling or if he's kicked out of the game, I can step up too, and I could be the number one scorer on this team too. So that's kind of a I don't want to say a breakout game because he's been really good these past couple of games, but I think he kind of just reminded everyone that like, hey, I can be a number one guy too. So
yeah, totally. Sometimes you just need to inject a little vitamin J into that game, and they got it that game for sure, and they needed it because the other thing, you talk about Byron, he had 2 early fouls. Like, he had 3 fouls before halftime, so 5 fouls in this league and you're out. So that was another thing. They were already in foul trouble as it was when Teddy went out, and guys had to step up. Simon Hildebrandt got a
Chad
ton more
stepped up.
time.
Chad played well.
Chad's another guy who throughout this first 4 games of the season has been playing very efficiently. His playing time hasn't been skyrocketed, but man, talk about what he's doing on the floor when he's on the floor and the physicality he's bringing. I don't know if he's more rested or what, but I don't remember him being that dominant last year. Like, just he is throwing guys around in the paint, and there's no answer for him when he's out there, and it just brings a whole new dynamic to that team. Shane Osiande too is another guy who's been playing pretty well when he's on the floor. Numbers don't pop as much as Chad's have with based on the minutes he's been playing, but yeah, that's another guy that's been playing really well, and you're starting to see that cohesiveness. But I think that game might be the gift in this, like a yeah, I guess a gift in disguise or a blessing in disguise, because Teddy wasn't there now. And I was so curious to see how it was going to happen. And don't get me wrong, it happened a few times, where a player, one off the top of my head was Wencat, kind of taking a solo shot, step back, getting a little ISO, but they kind of stuck to the script, right? And they played together and came through it. And like I say, at the time, the game was out of hand pretty much at halftime. And then they battle back and give themselves a chance to win in that game. What was it? The final score 101-94. And then at halftime, yeah, see, like they got outscored 26-21 in that second quarter, and there was a late push from the Sea Bears there as well. So yeah, it's this I think this one is a blessing in disguise that, even without Teddy, like, we're a good team. And I think that would be my takeaway. It's early in the season. You're going to lose some games. Things are going to go wrong, but like this was a chaotic moment really for the Sea Bears, because it was, injuries are one thing, but and you're always kind of worried about it, but like a technical foul and how early it happened, right? And the emotions that go with that, because everybody was fired up about some missed calls, and the officiating wasn't great, but we've seen that from time and time again in this league and in others. And then the post game show, that's what Mike Taylor said. It comes down to emotional discipline, and it got away at times this game, but then it came back. And you know who had the most emotional discipline? Jared Ogambemi Jackson. At no point did he look like he was, at least from our vantage point, that he was out of sorts or panicked or anything. And I think he really calmed the game down for the team. And, that's why he's your team captain. He's got that natural leadership in him, and he stepped up both like points wise and performance wise. But I think he was also the guy to kind of rein them all in emotionally as well. But you don't want to lose that game, but couple positives. They're in the East. So this will not come back to bite you in a seeding situation or anything like that in terms of a battle with that team directly. And you got to see a different look on your team that you can't really plan for. But I think this team walks away from that game a little more confident in each other, and what they're capable of with or without Teddy. And, and I think if you're Teddy Allen, you're probably just happy that, hey, thanks for picking it up. We didn't get the loss. I lost my cool there, whatever. But to have that trust of like, okay, they still stepped up and played and, still stuck to everything. I think that team and Mike Taylor particularly have to walk out with a somewhat good feeling, knowing that there's some cohesion there.
Well, this upcoming week, though, is a massive week. I mean, you look at the West right now. It
Yeah.
is a dogfight already. I know we're still early, but we're now a quarter of the way through the season. Like it's a
Yeah.
short season. Vancouver 4-1, Edmonton 4-1, Saskatchewan 3-2, and they beat Winnipeg in one of those wins. Winnipeg 3-2, Calgary 1-3. Where you look in the East, Scarborough 2-2, Niagara 2-2, Brampton 2-3. Like the West is the best teams right now. Like they're looking good. And you look at the Sea Bears schedule this week, they play Calgary this Sunday. Then they play on Thursday, Vancouver in Vancouver. They're in Calgary as well. And then next Sunday, they're hosting Edmonton, a team that they didn't fare that well against last year. So I think we're going to learn a lot about this team in the next, 7, 8, 9 days. And again, we're early in the year, but if this West is going to be this competitive, I don't think you want to be falling behind the pack and playing catch up in the back half of the year. So they
No.
got to
And
win.
like,
They got to win in Calgary on Sunday because it's going to be pretty hard to beat both Edmonton and Vancouver back to back. So I think Calgary, you got to take care of business there. And I think ideally for them, if they could split one of the other two games to close out the week, they'll probably take that. So yeah, our next episode after a couple of these games is going to be we're going to learn a lot about this team. There's going to be lots to
yeah.
talk about. for sure.
speaking to your point, the Sea Bears are in 4th of 5 positions in the Western Conference at 3-2. If they were playing in the East, they would be running the table right now at the top of the standings. So very tight. You're right. The other thing too for me with that is the Calgary game. The one thing with them, and Mike Taylor talked about it yesterday, was teams have slow starts there for whatever reason. Whether it be the atmosphere, the gym, like whatever it is, teams
Or
don't
getting
strong
guys
start.
late. Some of these teams are still waiting on some guys. I mean,
True, but
most
like
of them are now in now, but
yeah, so that's been a thing. So, like looking forward to that game, that's one thing he said that they have to establish is like getting that start. And the starts have been better in the last 2 games. The first few were the first three, I'd say, games were kind of like soft starts, like having a hard time getting that lid off the rim. The last couple starts have been much better. But the big game for me in that one is the end of this road trip, right? So if you can get out of Calgary, great. You'll be 2-1 on the road trip with 1 game to go. And this is the longest road trip of the season. Vancouver is 3-0 at home. They play really well at home, and Taze Moore is unbelievable. He's been such a great
you see
addition for
that dunk he
Vancouver.
had? I forget what
Oh,
game it was the other
he's
week.
got a
He
few, man.
breakaway
He's
dunk. Oh my
he's he
god, that guy
might be
can
the
jump out the
most
gym.
yeah, he might be the most entertaining guy in the league right now
Look
in
him up
terms
on
of
YouTube.
just
If you don't know who he is, look him up on YouTube. Stop the podcast right now. Look
yeah,
Taze
pause
Moore
it.
up.
Go look at
Yeah,
Taze
then
Moore
come
and what
back.
he's able to do.
Like,
And got
dude,
James
what that guy could
Sabalski
do,
on the call
unreal.
there too. It's crazy. You got
Yeah.
that's a local or a Canadian sportscast legend calling those games out in Vancouver, doing a great job. But yeah, so that to me will be like the ultimate kind of first half of the season measuring stick, followed by that game against Edmonton at home. And Edmonton is, funny enough, unbeaten on the road. They're 3-0 on the road. So those games back to back will be a huge test for Winnipeg. Hopefully Darius Days will be back by then too, because you'd like to see their full roster go up against them and see how they're panning out. But yeah, it's you're right. This next week and a half, let's say, are going to be a very true tale of what this team is capable of, where they are, and what the realistic chances are in the Western Conference in terms of where they're going to be seated. Are they going to be? Is this now a team that is primed to make a run to win the division title or the conference title? Or is this a team that might be getting into the play-in game and fighting for that? Because even the Rattlers have surprised. I was not expecting them to start 3-2, but they're right there with Winnipeg, and they've got that game in hand. Talking about games that can burn you. So yeah, there's some big games coming in. The East is kind of fading off to the background. I mean, you've already played Scarborough, Niagara, Brampton, and Ottawa. You'll be in Montreal to play Montreal later in the year, but now these are all Western Conference games, man. They all matter. So you had the luxury of working out the kinks against the teams you're not going to be head to head with in any kind of playoff seeding, because being in the other conference. But now these games really do matter. So it'll be interesting. And we've talked about this. We won't get too into it, but it's safe to say the talent is elevated right across the league. So Winnipeg, yes, is better, but I said this in that first season preview episode. I don't expect the record to be much different from last year. It might even be worse, but the team is better. But so is every other team. And now, like you say, it's a quarter way through the season. They got to turn up the gears and start clicking now, because it's only a 20-game season. You don't have a whole year to figure it out. You don't have 40, 50, 60, 80 games. You've got 20, right? So these games now become more important. It starts to feel like football, right? Once you get to like week 5, week 6, every win feels much better. Every loss feels much worse. And it's much of the same in the CEBL. But once they get back home, they're going to have their fan support. And that fan support is led, we'll say it's led by the Tracksuit Brothers, who
Oh,
have
good
come to
good
local
segue.
fame.
Well
They've got
done.
some national, right? See, I think I'd be a pro at this or something, eh? Like I could do this for a living if I wanted. But yeah, no, that was I'm really impressed. Thanks for noticing and giving me props on my segue.
Yeah, no
The
problem.
Tracksuit Brothers
I've never spent 30 minutes talking to two dudes about tracksuits, but
and being
that's what
fans.
we did. Yeah, there we go.
Here we
So
are.
fun
Yeah.
chat, and let's get right to it.
Tracksuit Brothers, Nick and Phil on Target Score Weekly. We now welcome the Tracksuit Brothers to Target Score Weekly. I don't know if you recognize them though. I'm looking here. It's like these guys are in work mode. This is what the Tracksuit Brothers look like when they're not tracksuiting on the sidelines at Sea Bears games. But thank you both for making the time there, Phil and Nick.
Very welcome. Thank you for having us.
So I
Yeah,
guess that the first question is everybody wants to know: are you guys actually brothers?
We are not. No. I am a little older, a little wiser than Nick, but we are not actually brothers. It was a name that I think a few fans it got kicked around a couple of different versions, a couple of different options for nicknames, and I think Tracksuit Brothers is what organically happened.
Well, how do you guys know each other? And for those that don't know, what is the story? What is the origin of the Tracksuit Brothers?
Yeah, so we used to be coworkers and kind of quickly became fast friends. And from there, the we stayed in touch. We're no longer at the same organization, but kept in touch. And when the Sea Bears came to town, uh, Phil was on top of it. And maybe I'll let him go into the origin story there.
Sure. I think one of the reasons that Nick and I became fast friends was we both have the same ideology around trying to make things an event. So it's not just okay, get tickets to something, go to it, and enjoy ourselves. It's how can we kick this up a few notches. So first thing was we got to be courtside. If our feet aren't on the floor, we're not going. So we were lucky enough and fortunate enough to get those courtside seats, and we're in prime location. From there, we started talking about potentially doing theme nights. So it'd be like a dress like Drake or dress like Jack night kind of thing, and do that. But then I was watching the Stanley Cup playoffs I guess last year, and
Yeah.
they had a shot of Paul Maurice behind the bench of the um, Florida Panthers, and the guy right behind him had a windbreaker tracksuit on with a gold chain sticking out, and I'm like, oh, that's a good look. So I sent that over to Nick and said, what do you think? And he's like, yep, I'm on it. Next thing you know, we've got a collection of velour tracksuits, and it just kind of became a thing.
So the collection is off the hop. This wasn't like the first game we just got the tracksuits. It was like, no, if we're gonna do this, we are getting tracksuits. Now, for those that are watching and may not have been to a game, and you probably have seen it if you've watched it on TV on TSN or TSN Plus. But these two gentlemen do sit courtside with rather flashy velour tracksuits, and have quickly become the, I guess, focal point of fans in that's when it comes to Sea Bears Nation. But this was actually a collection. So you guys look at it and you're like, no, we're getting like a specific suit for each game, or did you kind of have a rotation? What was the game plan going into ordering it?
No, this grew. So the first game, and basically when Phil sent that over, I went to looking like where can I procure these, and I was looking for something that'd be as close to the Sea Bears colors as I could. And so we came up with like this deep, like forest green color. Um, and I was like, yeah, this is the closest I could get in time. There's a lighter blue that's maybe a little closer to the teal, but it wouldn't have arrived in time. So this is as good as we got. And it was the first game. Uh, we were going to the washroom after the end, and it was a great win. Everybody was super excited, and somebody had come over and like, oh, I love the tracksuits. And so me and Phil were talking to each other while we were waiting in line, I think. And from there, it was like, hey, I think I'm going to order the other ones. We had a bit of time in between that we could get the second ones. And so the next game, we wore that sort of lighter blue. And again, I think actually in almost the same place in the arena, somebody was like, oh, do you guys just have a different color for every game? And Phil was like, yup. And I was like, okay, pulled out the phone and started the collection. And it's just grown over time. At this point, we actually have some professional ones, so it's really our game has been upped as we've gone along.
Yeah, take us through that new exciting partnership you guys have and how that all came about. I imagine you guys did not expect that when you guys first pulled on a tracksuit for game one last summer.
No, we definitely did not expect it to grow the way it's grown in the first place. But then when Zuike reached out to us and said, "Hey, we're the official loungewear of the Winnipeg Sea Bears. We are doing tracksuits, and we need you guys to be the face of these things. Was not expecting that at all, but it's been a really fun journey with those guys. They are amazing. They are awesome. They have been fantastic to work with. And yeah, now that we joke that we've got corporate sponsorships and brand deals and that kind of thing, but no, it's been fun.
But
We don't even have a
essentially,
sponsor, Joey.
right? That's what I'm saying. I'm
What
like,
are we doing wrong here?
What? I don't know how many fans in the history of fans across all sports can say they have their own line of fanwear. It's made like you guys are the guys that elevated this whole tracksuit thing, and then a local retailer comes in and says, "Listen, we're upping your game a little bit," and they look awesome. Like, and I didn't realize there's the 2 sets too. At first, I thought it was just the 1 set, but they like you basically have home and away sets. That's insane to me.
I think it was really cool, especially the first game, and being able to have them kind of before anyone else could. And that was really interesting. The challenge with it was that we wore both at the first game, and we got some feedback like, "Oh, you guys aren't matching anymore." And it's like, "Oh no, we will be. We totally will be. We've heard the feedback. We will adjust. Go back to what works.
What I'm getting is that Phil is the idea guy and Nick's the coordinator guy in this. I think you guys have a very good partnership. This is kind of like a business for you guys at this point. If you're getting endorsements and you've got a general plan, I think this full-blown qualifies as a fan-based business.
There's inspiration and execution, and I think we have a good delegation of tasks there.
Now you got merch, you got T-shirts there. You just got the slogan, so there you go.
Yep, we're next.
There might be a Tracksuit Brothers bobblehead night, coming next at the rate you guys are going. So who knows? But do you guys have a favorite interaction that you've had, whether it's with a fan or opposing player or a sea bear at a game? I'd love to hear from both of you guys if there's one that sticks out.
There's been a few. We're fortunate enough that in our section where we sit beside a couple of really amazing guys that have kind of embraced us as well, and we're vocal during the games. We'll say that. We will Google the other team's roster. We will find out who their top players are. We find out their first names, and when you call them by their first name, you get the double take, like what's going on, and then from there, just kind of anyone who feeds into what we have going on, we'll single them out and make it a tough night for them. We did have one interaction last year where a player went to the ref and was like, "Hey ref, are you gonna let these guys do this?" He's like, "Yep, it's gonna be a long night for you."
Mason Bercier was one of your targets last year. We had him on the show a month or two ago, and I brought it up to him. He's like, "Yeah, those guys in the tracksuits. I don't know if my hair was off that day or why they were picking on me, but yeah, the whole game they were just saying my name." So,
and he also said that he had to go Google it after. Like he was like, what are those guys? And then he found your Instagram page or whatever it was. Like, so I found out it was the Tracksuit Brothers that were chirping me all game. And I also remember the one that sticks out for me was actually a Sea Bears loss. But it was Justin Wright Foreman, Wright Foreman that came in and hit the game winner for Sask, and then went right up to you guys on a national broadcast. Like it was personal for him. And like, how cool is that moment? Like, especially knowing like it's on national TV. I know you're probably not thinking it at the time because the adrenaline's probably going all out. But to go on and be like, here I am on TSN national TV, and I have a potential at the time MVP. He was the runner-up to Teddy Allen, coming to me and my so-called brother directly to let me know that they just won the game.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that was all Phil. But I mean, together we were chirping them all night, and when it was like we lost, and so there was that sting for a second, and then it's like, oh, he's coming over, like what's going on? And I think Phil handled it really well, but. Yeah,
he definitely came over and flexed at us. Throughout the game, his comments towards us will say are not suitable for work. He let us know that he didn't like us as much as we didn't like him.
Fair enough. So Other than the Florida Panthers random tracksuit guy from last year, do you guys have a favorite super fan in sports?
Ooh, I don't think we've had this question before, but if we're staying uh, on the theme of basketball, you got to look at the Toronto Raptors super fan. Uh, he's at every game. He's sitting not quite courtside, but a little behind the net there, and he is someone who has stood out as far as, we'll say, regular people. Like, yeah, you can go to the Drakes and the Jacks and everyone else who sits courtside in New York and LA and that, but it's what about us regular people?
He said Raptors at he's been to Raptors weddings and stuff like that. Like he's a big deal in Toronto for sure. Nick, how about yourself? Is there a super fan you draw inspiration from, or one that kind of sticks out in your mind?
I don't know about inspiration for sure because I can't dance, but since I was a kid, I love Dancing Gabe, and like to the point that we were on like a school trip one time, and they were like, "Hey, do you want the autograph of this band that's playing?" And I can't even remember who it was, but I remember going like, "No, no, but Dancing Gabe is over there. Can I get his autograph?" And I did, and it was like amazing. So yeah, it was. That's that sticks out in my mind, and it's kind of cool to be at like I don't know.
You're kind of in that realm for at least the Sea Bears, right? Like, I still think Dancing Gabe has the whole sports scene on lock for sure. He's an institution.
For sure.
But I mean, you guys
Yeah.
have set the tone in that sense from a Sea Bears standpoint because you're there at every game. You're in the same spot. People know where to find you. So yeah, you can put yourself up there with now at least the beginning stages of where Dancing Gabe is. I think you're probably the next closest fan for media coverage and stuff like that.
I had
That's funny.
I had a friend last season. Nick and I had one day where we got interviewed by the team, so we were there kind of all afternoon, and then throughout the course of the game, a lot of the team staff were coming over, talking to us, shaking our hand, and of course we're visible with where we're sitting. And a friend of mine who is attending the game as well sent me a text, and she just says, "Why are you Sea Bears famous?" I'm like, I don't know. We just showed up, and this is all happening so fast.
You guys are legit Winnipeg famous. Like, that is a thing. But the other thing too is you guys are real fans. I think it was you, Nick. Correct me if I'm wrong, but did you not come back for a game last year? I don't know if it was a playoff game or something, but you were like in Vegas or something, and you came back just for the game. And how did that go?
uh, relative. So the actual travel was relatively fine. But yeah, like it was. I didn't realize at the time that I booked going to Vegas that it would conflict with the games. And this started really picking up, and I started getting really into it. And the team was doing really well, and I didn't want to miss the game. So yeah, I figured out a window. I was going to be down there for about 10 days, and if you've been to Vegas, it's probably 8 days too many. So yeah, was able to find a decently priced flight, used a few points, and flew back for I believe the entire trip was 41 hours to make it back for the game and then get back to Vegas. I got
Nuts.
special security screening, like because at the airport they're like, "What are you doing? What like
Why do you have these tracksuits only?
yeah?" And it was like, "You're not bringing luggage back home," and yeah, it was. I definitely got flagged, but otherwise it worked out okay.
I
That's
picked
incredible.
Nick up at the
Great
airport on
story.
that one with a pizza because the window was so tight. So we had some pizza on the way to the or on the way to the arena, and that was dinner.
Awesome.
Jeez.
So have you guys always been basketball guys, or you heard the Sea Bears were coming to town, like, hey, this sounds like it'd be a cool experience, let's give it a go, or just what's got your relationship with basketball prior to this?
So I wasn't as big of a basketball fan, just more of the event fan. But Nick's got his roots a little deeper in the Winnipeg basketball scene.
Yeah, so like when I was a kid, I was when the Thunder were around for that short of a time period. My parents just couldn't take us, but like I love that the symbol was a bear, the ACDC tie-ins. It was really exciting, and that was sort of where I became a fan. So I was a fan of the Winnipeg Thunder before there was any before anything in the NBA. And then, of course, I don't know, Jordan when we were kids was also a big influence. And then kind of throughout high school, I didn't really play or anything. I played some pickup games with some guys at the Y. Uh, but when I found out that it was coming back, it was just sort of fitting a hand in a glove. The passion came back for sure.
So you guys aren't full-time fans. That is not your full-time job. So I'm sure a lot of people are curious to what do the Tracksuit Brothers do when they're away from Canada Life Center?
I own a commercial cleaning company here in Winnipeg, so we do restaurants, offices, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and for myself, I work in software development. Work at a company handling AI for automotive advertising.
That's crazy. It's so funny because as soon as you guys pop up, it's just I'm like, man, it's like they're totally different people. It's like your whole other persona when you show up to the court.
What is life like courtside? I think every basketball
Yeah.
fan, every sports fan, the dream is to one day sit courtside for a basketball game. You guys have done that countless times now. Was there anything that surprised you about sitting courtside? What's the best part about sitting courtside? What's maybe the worst part about sitting about courtside? What's the whole scouting report on sitting courtside?
Nick, you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. For me, let's start with the worst because there's a lot of good that comes along with it. The worst part of it is I don't really get to we're at the front of the fans, and so if there's cheering or if there's stuff on the jumbotron, I kind of can't see it, and that came out in when we were talking with the team last year, where it was like, oh, how exciting is it when you guys are up on the jumbotron and people are cheering? And it's like, people do that? That they're like, for us, they shouldn't. There's special here, but yeah. So other than that, though, it's amazing having a front seat, especially to see the success of the team and being around just that atmosphere and seeing the game so up close. Um, that part of it is just amazing, and we have a really good section. There's some really passionate fans around us, which was even in the first game I didn't know how to act because it was kind of that thing that what do you do when you're courtside? I've never experienced this before, and we kind of looked over in that first game, and there was a couple of free throws for the other team where David Asper got up and started booing, and it was like, you can boo, okay, yeah, this feels good, and yeah, it's been great ever since.
If the owner's doing it, of course you're on board, right? How about for you, Phil? Was there any surprises or anything there? Because the other thing too is I've been to at least a couple of other venues in the league. None of them compare to the Winnipeg experience. I mean, it's pretty loud, and especially with basketball, much like where I am, we're by courtside. And the one thing I found unique was when you're not in a press box, you can feel hear the noise coming down. You get a much better idea of how loud it is when it's there. But what surprised you, or what most impressed you with the experience, Phil?
I just think overall the league has done a good job with the players that they have brought in, the ambassadors for the sport that we've got right now. There isn't that air of we're better than you or anything like that you might see in some other professional leagues. The players have been so accessible and embracing us. Even just being courtside has been exciting, whether it's the Sea Bears or visiting teams. So that's been a really unique part of the experience. Pre-game, having players come up saying, "Oh, hey, we saw this post, we saw that post on your Instagram," and talking about the tracksuits. I got DM'd from Teddy Buckets yesterday asking for where can he get his tracksuits. So I joke around and said we're going to do a jersey swap. So that part's been really exciting.
Now you're getting DMs. Like, you guys are at super fan, like Raptor super fan level right there. If you've got the reigning MVP sliding into your DMs asking, "Hey, where do I get your tracksuit?" That's pretty intense. Now, you've been here for a while. Thank you for your time, and we'll keep you for a couple more minutes because I do have to ask about the aesthetics of this and putting it together. We talked a little bit about the coordination and color, but what goes into it? Because Nick, you and we had a little bit of a match going on last game. So I know that the sneaker plays a key part of this, and you've got great taste when it comes to sneakers. But what are the key elements when you're planning this out to make sure that that look is pulled off to a T?
Well, I do think that as well grew over time, and probably organically as well. Again, I'm just trying to recapture the '90s. So I have had a number of Reebok pumps. I think my collection is now up to 7 or 8. And that's where we match. I'm shocked because like you just don't see him around much anymore. But yeah, I've been able to find a number of them, either trips down to the States or like for work and stuff. Or there's one that I've ordered just because I really like the fit and it makes me feel young again. But yeah, so that got added in. I think at some point it was like these tracksuits aren't real good at like the velour ones that we had. They're not that good at holding things in your pockets, so we added a fanny pack. Uh, Phil is much more into the bling, so he got us chains at one point, and it just sort of filled out the look. Yeah,
So it's flash and practicality. That's what I'm getting out of this.
yeah, of course.
Okay, the one thing I'll add to this story, Taylor, just because we were talking about the pumps. So we were both wearing the Shaq pumps, like the Orlando Magic pumps last home game, and I'm a big Shaq fan. Like, Orlando Magic Shaq was probably like my first favorite player, and he's still probably my all-time favorite player. And so I'm going to this store downtown. I'm talking to this lady, and I see the pumps, and I'd seen them in another store. I'm with my wife, and I say, like, maybe it's an omen. Like, maybe I think they might have been a little cheaper at this place too. So I'm like, this is maybe an omen. I should get them, whatever. And I'm buying another pair of shoes. So this lady comes up to me and she's like, I just love you older guys because you get it. You respect the shoes. And I'm like, how old do you think I am? But I didn't say that because she's like, well, you know what? The pumps we don't really get a lot of traction on. So I'll throw them in if you're getting the other shoes for whatever price. It was like $100 or something. And I was like, deal. Awesome. I am old and I will take my senior's discount and leave. Adding to that story, she tells me about her jersey, and for some reason she's like, my favorite jersey is my John Stockton jersey. And I'm like, now I'm on the other end. I'm like, wow, like, you like John Stockton. Like, you don't seem like the generation that would have watched John Stockton. And she's like, well, my brother plays for Utah. And I'm like, wait a second. Like, we're in Winnipeg, so I'm trying to think, like, there's not even a Winnipegger in the league right now. So I'm like, who's your brother? She's like, oh, his name's Kelly. And I'm like, Kelly Olynyk? And she's like, yeah, that's my brother. And I'm like, I'm a huge Celtics fan. He had one of the biggest playoff games in Celtics history. So anyway, national team member. We're going to see him in the Olympics. Kelly Olynyk's sister sold me at a steep discount those Shaq pumps because she thought I was old.
Wow, I got to come shopping with you.
Right? Yeah, we could be the old guys. Hey, if we're getting deals on pumps, I am as old as you want me to be.
Yeah.
Velour tracksuits and pump,
My last
pump
question.
shoes.
There you go. I'll
That's a
be the
good
third. The Bash brothers had a third Bash brother in the Mighty Ducks. I'll be the third tracksuit brother. There we go. I just
There you
need the
go.
velour suit.
Could be the stepbrother. My last question for you guys. You have a closet full of these things. I'd imagine they're pretty comfortable to wear. You're at home for the day, you're just lounging, you're watching football or whatever's on TV, just the day at home and you're lounging. Do you whip out one of these tracksuits, or at least the pants? Do you wear them at home? Or are these things in the closet in pristine condition, game only? Or when else do you guys bust these things out?
For me, they're game use only. I've got 2 young kids at home, so stains, spills, it's
Smart.
always something. So yeah, it's 30 minutes before I got to leave. The suit goes on. I feel like I'm getting dressed for a wedding or something. The way I take care of the shirts and making sure that they're crisp, and the shoes. I don't have pumps, but I do have a collection of Jordans that I wear. So just making sure that everything is put together, and off I go.
Yeah, you got fresh kicks too.
Yeah, and for myself, I maybe after that answer, I'm a little embarrassed to say, like, yeah, sure, I'll put it on, like, and like it's comfy, you know. What if it's cold in the house, you know? It's convenient.
So
No shame in
my
that.
last question is, now that you have the official line, do you have to retire some, or like are you going to be wearing different colors again? Like, what's the game plan here? Because now you've got this big spotlight on you guys. You guys are like the pro fans. So how do you approach your superstardom in season 2 for the remainder?
So, like, Phil and I were talking about this last season, and it's like how, like, this is starting to get a little out of hand as far as like buying the different tracksuits, and like, how far do you think this will go? And I'm like, man, if they ever have a tracksuit one day, like, I am gonna be wearing that, like, that, and so like, I think at least for this season, like, I'm so excited that this has happened that I don't know, I'm pretty comfortable wearing that. I know that definitely with last season there was a few people who were uh, coming up to us and saying how they were betting their friends on what color we were going to wear that night. And so, you know, hey, you can still bet in between home or away, but yeah, I think that I don't know. We haven't exactly discussed it, but I'm just really excited that we have something that more closely matches the team, and that it feels exciting.
Bet Victor has a
And
new
I will
prop
add on to
to
that
throw
too,
in
that
on the CEBL
and
bets
this
for
might be
Winnipeg.
a bit of a scoop, a little bit of an exclusive for you guys. I guess the Sea Bears and Zwieke, I think we're looking at July 3rd as the official tracksuit night.
Oh, nice. Okay, so we got tracksuit night coming. Breaking news on Target Score Weekly. I love
Big
it.
scoop.
I
Nice.
love it. Oh man, that's so cool. So yeah, I guess, hey, I don't think anybody's gonna mind. They look super comfy. They look super cool. If you do retire the old ones, it'll be sad, but it's understandable. But I'm sure they'll come out of the woodwork every now and again. But yeah, for people that want to get them, because that's the other thing. Now you guys are gonna have imitators, because they can buy this at Zwieke, who does a great job, by the way, with like as a local retailer. He makes some of the high school jerseys, and yeah, Zwiike's got some good stuff, and this is among the top of their creations, we'll say. So you can get it there, and I believe the Sea Bears are selling it as well. I think it is a collab on that. I'm not too sure, but either way, if you search up Zwieke, you'll find them on there. But guys, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming in. That offer stands. If you need that third tracksuit, brother, you know, I could take a day off. I can help out, you know, just open up a seat for me on the sideline. And Taylor might be available as well, but I think I'm a better sideline supporter than Taylor. Just my gut feeling. But
Shots fired.
you know,
Well, I'm
I
a
cheer for
reporter. I'm
winners.
no
I cheer
fan,
for
so
winners.
that's fine. Oh, okay. It's been over a week since your Celtics knocked off the Pacers, and I'm still getting flack for it, but that's okay.
You're gonna get a
That's
lot of
okay.
flack for a long time, but yeah. Guys, thank you so much. We'll see you on the next home game, which is I'm not even sure, a while away. There's still 2 road games from this recording, but we'll see you at the next one. Can't wait to see what you're wearing.
For sure. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Target Score Weekly podcast. To stay up to date with Winnipeg Sea Bears and CEBL news, as well as future episode releases, follow Joey and Taylor on Twitter and Instagram at TaylorAllen31 and at Joey Slattery TV. And wherever you're getting the podcast, be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode.